Hello, hello. It's Jessica here. I'm back on a live. I haven't been on a live for a little minute, so let me do some stuff here. Well, I think I'm live. Let me double check. Okay, yes. Okay. Perfect. Let me share myself out. But hello, happy Sunday. All right. Okay, so today I just had a couple of topics I wanted to discuss. And really, I just wanted to highlight a couple of recruiting trends that I'm seeing right now. And I am following this article and also talking about my own experience and what I'm seeing other recruiters and what they're doing. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me okay. I'm actually testing out a mic. So it's my first time using it. Let me know if you're able to hear me, if you're in here. Let me just throw a little comment in here too, in case you cannot hear me. Okay. Hopefully you can. So I'm going to just get started here. I want to talk about the recruiting trends, but I also want to talk about some things I've seen highlighted as far as job seeker questions as well. So I want to go from recruiting, couple of things I'm seeing high level from job seeker questions. It's going to be varied because I've gotten different questions for folks that are very entry level, just starting their career. And then I get different questions for those mid-level folks that maybe they just haven't interviewed in a while, just want to brush up on some things. I actually just recently did a consultation with a lady who said that it's not like she hadn't interviewed in a really long time. It was just she hadn't interviewed in maybe two to 3 years. And then we have other folks that have been in the work environment for a very, very, very long time, very seasoned professionals. Well, they've been at their same company, one company, or maybe one or two, and they haven't interviewed in 10, 15, even 20 years. So a lot of them have different types of questions. So I want to talk about that briefly. And then I want to move into the remote work trends I'm seeing. I talked about this last week, but then I took down that live. So I thought I might as well go ahead and talk about it today. And thank you, Edward. I appreciate that. So my audio is good. Amazing. Thank you so much. Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much, Edward, for telling me the audio is all good. And hello, Barry. Welcome in, Barry. So let me just address this one, well, the first trend. So I want people to know that when it comes to social media, like when I first entered the workplace, a lot of people in corporate America or like people in the workplace were telling folks to really hide what they're doing on social media. Your social media had to be kind of separate from the workplace. I even remember having to put a statement about like opinions on my own, not the company's, and all of this stuff. And I think that still is there to an extent. However, what I'm seeing as far as recruiting is that recruiters are more and more using social media to find job candidates. So I've talked about LinkedIn, of course, but there's even more than that. 70% of recruiters are saying now they successfully have used social media to hire new employees. So 70% of recruiters are saying they're successfully using social media. So when I think of a lot of the work that I've found social media really helpful, it's been the tech jobs, creative jobs, public relations, all of these very more public facing jobs or very technical jobs. So if you think of GitHub, which would fall under social media as well, Behance for creatives, all these different niche sites. And then, of course, LinkedIn for professionals, which is kind of like the Facebook for professionals in a sense. Same kind of setup. You go out there, you can post content, you can chat with people, message people, all these things. And they made it very easy for recruiters to go using specific keywords to find people on LinkedIn. The other thing I want to talk about that I've seen as well, and I don't know if anyone else, if you've seen any of these advertisements, but a job description is literally a job advertisement. That has been the traditional way that companies have been advertising the people. It's just posting a job on their website, so under their career site, and then also posting content to, your Indeed, your LinkedIn, your Monster.com, your Career Builder, yada, yada, yada. There's so many. There's ZipRecruiter, so many of these sites. However, the newest way I'm seeing is to have job advertisements that are either videos that they're posting onto their website, or they're also making a lot of advertisements that will show up either on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I've seen a lot of them just because I think the algorithm knows that I'm constantly either talking about jobs or I'm looking for jobs specific to the people in my community. So a lot of times I'm looking for jobs that have nothing to do with what I can do, but I'm looking for jobs that will relate to others. So that's a big trend that I'm seeing. So what does this mean for a job seeker or just a professional, right? Is to just be very cognizant of what you're putting out on social media and to make sure that let's say you're a creative person and you're making video reels out on YouTube. Make sure it's the best that you can present out there, because you never know. Someone may see that at a company. They may have a job opening for a video producer or a social media focused job, and they could potentially reach out to you just on YouTube. So be ready for that. I don't think it's there to the point where people are going to just naturally reach out to people on YouTube as often, but I do see that trend happening. And of course, LinkedIn. I talk about LinkedIn so many times. I'm sure people are tired of me saying the word LinkedIn, but the reason I say this is because, again, 70% of recruiters are saying they're using social media to find people. The biggest platform that recruiters use is LinkedIn. I've worked so right now I'm at Group 9 Media. Before that, I was at Nestle Purina. Before that, had a stint at Save-A-Lot. Before that, I was at an Omnicom agency. Before that, I was in school. But all this to say, all of the recruiters that I've come into contact with, they've worked at other places before, the workplace that I met them in. Each of them have used LinkedIn in particular to find candidates. That's the best tool. So if you're looking for something, or if you just want to be in a place where, hey, you're not looking for a job right now, but you'd love for recruiters to just kind of have you on the radar, so you're not even looking for jobs, they're bringing the jobs to you, you need to build a nice professional profile out there on LinkedIn. I've made a couple of different videos about that. So that's all I'm going to say with that. Let me look at some comments in here, though. Hello. Good afternoon, Shay Queen of Steeler Nation Kennedy. Wow, that's a long profile name. Welcome in. I am in the middle of painting my son's room, but have you on my big screen. I love that you have me on your big screen, Barry. That's awesome. Let us know how the room turns out. And if you're still here, we'd love to know the color. That's pretty cool. It's a nice Sunday project. Because you're painting. That's cool. Good morning. Hi, Carmen. Welcome. Thank you. And Shay says hello to everybody. Okay. So I'm going to move on down the list here. Hello, OG. Welcome in. Nice to see you. Okay, so I finished my rant about LinkedIn, and just be very cognizant again of your social media, because you never know who could be watching, and it could lead to a potential job opportunity, especially if you're in a tech or creative space or marketing. spaces as well. Okay, so the next thing I've talked about on my channel as well, but artificial intelligence. Okay, artificial intelligence over the next 5, 10, 15 years, we're just going to see more and more of it. And artificial intelligence is also changing the staffing world or recruiting world. So, what recruiters and job seekers are going to find is that a lot of processes are going to be automated, and it's going to allow recruiters to focus more on other parts of their job, maybe focusing on diversity and inclusion efforts or focusing on candidate experience and things like that. So a lot of the administrative things are going away. Other piece of that too that I've talked about on the channel is that we're going to use more of our systems to identify which job candidate is the best match. Okay, so I've talked about this and told people when looking at your resume, you need to look at it from a perspective of looking at the job description. Like, what do you know about the job? And a lot of times you just have the job description if you're an organic job applicant. You need to be highlighting specific keywords and skills that you see listed in a job advertisement and matching up to that. Oftentimes I have found I talk to a job candidate and they have the experience, but it's not listed on their resume. They have skills that's not listed on the resume, but it's a perfect match to the specific job that they're applying to. And the reason I talk about this is because if we're going to use more artificial intelligence, we're using more systems to figure out if a person is the right job match. Well, you do have to sync up your resume, which is, as a job candidate, your advertisement to the potential employer to show, hey, you said you're looking for X, Y, and Z. I have X, Y, and Z. You're putting in these keywords and you're matching it so that whether it's a person that's going to scan the resume for those keywords or if it's the computer or the system that's doing it, you have the best chance to be move forward in the process. So, really quick point about that. And we'll move on to the next trend that I'm seeing. Edward says, how do you think AI is going to further impact the auto industry? Oh my gosh, that is a good question. Okay, so I mean, I think we will always have the auto industry for sure, but I do think it will look different in the fact that there will be more of the companies finding out ways where they can take out the driver and put in a self-driving car. And we see that with, I talked about this I feel like 2 months ago. Oh my gosh, time flies. So I talked about 2 months ago, I talked about Domino's and how they were working with this company, Neuro, to pilot. So they're testing it out. And Houston, I believe, is where they started. I don't know if they're testing out in other locations. However, they have it where you order a pizza and the self-driving truck just delivers the pizza to you directly. And it's funny. The reason I brought that up 2 months ago was because you have folks like Dave Ramsey, who I used to listen to more often when I was on my debt-free journey, but now not so much. But I remember he would tell callers whenever they need a side hustle, whenever they would need some additional income, hey, just, you need to deliver pizzas. Well, companies are trying to find ways to cut costs. Always trying to be more efficient. So from that standpoint, and I'm talking about Domino's because of the self-driving. So when it comes to delivery trucks, you have that. And then you also have this other company that I can't remember the name of, but they have it where they're developing with their AI and robotics to have self-driving fleets, right? So yes, truck driving is a great industry for many people. You can get pretty good pay without needing to, do a 4-year college degree. Like, who wouldn't want to do that if you can stand being in a truck for, extended periods of time and being away from your family and whatnot. But that's going to cut down the cost for them because instead of needing 8 drivers, well, they just need the one. And then they have this fleet of self-driving trucks, they're just following that, main driver. So there's a lot of trends that we're seeing where I think the auto industry will be more efficient. We also see that Tesla has really brought up a lot of competition for other companies like Mercedes-Benz, Ford. There's more, movement into the electric car and also self-driving cars. So even thinking about Uber and Lyft, there's this push for self-driving vehicles, and we see it. We see it in TV. We see it's going to happen, right? If we've already envisioned it as a whole, we're working on it. It's bound to happen, right? So I would say we're a few years out, I think, for people really taking on to it, but we've already got it mentally here and we're ready for self-driving vehicles. So I do see that it's still going to be a booming industry, but I think more people are going to be eventually taken out of that picture. Good question. I hope that answered it. Hello, Sharky. Welcome in. Nice to see you. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next trend that I'm seeing, and that is project-based contract hiring. And we actually saw this a lot more, well, in the past years, maybe since like 2015, 2016, 2017, we were seeing more of the gig economy come up, Uber, Lyft, people just taking on projects, people using Fiverr and Upwork to just do specific project work. While we've also seen really large companies, like for example, a Nestle, use more of the contract-based work instead of hiring full-time employees. Well, we know this project is coming up. It's going to take us 2 years. Let's just hire someone on a contract for this specific project. More and more companies are doing that. And actually 73% of managers believe they will hire more contingent workers, which means contract. Even as, things kind of shift with these companies, they do reorganizations, they're shifting. That's what they're thinking they're going to do. So I think that's important to know, because when you're a contract employee, there are a lot of benefits that you're not getting as a full-time employee. So that's where the cost cutting comes in for the employer. However, on the upside of that, oftentimes if you're a contract employee or you're freelancing or things, you can charge an hourly rate, and typically either alongside the market or higher than the market rate, more than what a full-time employee may make. Now, that's a general rule that we see in the market. So I think that is going to happen more. However, that will depend on what the employees are willing to do. Because in this market, what we're seeing right now is that it is a candidate's market. There's more jobs than there are people to be filled in certain industries, not every industry, right? So it will depend on your industry, and it will depend on really what the candidates say they want, which will lead me into another trend. I'm going to talk about remote work. But if you have enough people saying, no, they're not going to take contract work, you have to hire me full time, well, that will shift what the plans are. However, I do feel like more people are open to the, more gig economy, more contract work, because of the flexibility that it offers. So you can say, I'm going to work, this amount per hour, or, commission, or whatever the setup will be. A lot of times it's per hour. And I'm going to work this set amount. So you could have more people saying, I only want to work 25 hours, 30 hours, whatever, or less than that. Normally when you're at 30 hours, you're full time. However, most companies prefer you just to work 40 hours a week or more when you're full time. But technically you would be full time anything over 30 hours. But we're seeing more people want the flexibility, and they're seeing, from 2020, what we experience is that it's important, where people are focused on family and self-care and, balancing their work life than I would say otherwise, which I think is really good, especially in our American society where we're very much work driven compared to some of our European counterparts. I did answer the question. Great. Thank you, Edward. But yeah, let me know if you guys have seen anything similar in the market. Let me see. Barry painting. He can't respond. He's still painting. I would love to know how things turn out. I actually like anything related to housing and decor. I really like that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious. Okay, so the next trend that I am seeing in recruitment, which I really shouldn't say is a trend, but I think more companies are fully focusing and holding people accountable for this, and it's diversity and inclusion. 2020 really changed up some views, I think, and really showed companies that you need to be inclusive and diverse if you are going to continue being innovative and you're going to continue to thrive as a company, because it's important to people. Candidates are saying they only want to work in places that are inclusive and diverse. And it's a candidate's market. So you have to meet the needs for your potential job candidates, and you need to meet the needs for the people that are buying your product potentially. Because there's a lot of competitors in the market now. It's very easy for someone like me to say, well, I don't want to get the big product. I'm just going to get the product from such and such that I know. She has an online store. I'm just going to do that. So how do you compete? You have to be diverse and more inclusive. It's kind of like forceful. Now, not to say that there are companies that are more so saying they're doing it for the common good, but with companies we know, come on, it's it's America, and we're a capitalist country, so there has to be some type of bottom line impact for it. So it's not just going to be, though, because I think in the past, from what I've seen, let me know, guys, if you've seen differently, but it seemed like D&I efforts was always just focused on hiring versus making sure that teams are equitable. The workplace is inclusive for everyone. And also I feel like there was just this one diverse image. And I feel like now there's more of a expanded image of what diversity means, and getting people of different backgrounds generally versus, just saying we just need this one type of person. So I think there will be more evolving from that, which is great because it's something that I definitely, push for. Okay, let me take a little break here and check out a comment or two. Hello, Buddha. Welcome in. Nice to see you. How's everything pulling up in this live? I appreciate it. And happy Sunday, Yolanda. Hello. Thank you for checking out my last video. I was reading your comment and I did not realize you had all of that going on. So I really want to, I'll have to connect with you some kind of way, because I would love to talk with you more about your scenario, and how you kind of figure out what's best for you health-wise versus working. So it's a lot of things that you have to consider that I have not even really fully thought about myself. So I would love to talk with you more, Yolanda. Edward says last year has really brought diversity to the forefront. Yes, exactly. Well, and people, here's the thing, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, most people that aren't typically, in the groups that really have found it very important, haven't had to look at it like, you're in the office, you go home to your community that looks very much like you or your representation. 2020, everyone's at home, you're looking at the news, and what's on the news, it's like in your face. And there were a lot of initiatives done as well that really helped, and companies saw that, hey, if we don't do something, like, our profits are also going to suffer. So it's like full circle. There's still way more that needs to be done. But yes, last year was very eye-opening for many that were, I try not to say anything against anyone, because here's the thing. there's a lot of things going on globally that I don't have to think about because I'm in America. So you take that same thinking of someone that maybe isn't ethnically diverse, for example, or maybe they don't have a disability. Well, they're not going to think about it because unless they have to, unless it's in their face, right? So I always try to think of it that way. It's not that people are necessarily saying, I literally don't care about these issues, but there's a lot of things that go on in a person's day to day. And so if you're not forced to think about it, or you're not proactively wanting to think about it or to learn about it, this is what we have. So I'm really happy that more, like last year did force more people to see and to actually want to know more, start learning and do more to bridge the gap that we see in our American society. But I know diversity and inclusion looks very different in like Canada, and the UK looks a little slightly different too sometimes when I've talked to folks there. But at the same time, we all have the same or similar issues when it comes to that. All right. So Buddha says, thank you, happy Sunday, and hope you have a wonderful day. And I am just going day by day dealing with pain. Oh my gosh, I hope you feel better, Buddha. Yes, take it day by day and make sure that I talk about this a lot, but make sure you're taking care of yourself, whatever that means for you, and taking care of your whole self. It doesn't always have to just be a physical thing or a mental thing. There's so many aspects of self-care that we need to keep in mind. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm looking to see if there's any questions in here before I move on to my last one, and then I start talking about the next subject. I know, it's really sad to hear. Just get lots of rest, Buddha. Okay. So the next one, I feel go pretty much hand in hand. So employee well-being, mental health, and work-life balance. These are all things that companies are focused on, and they're focused on providing actual help to their employees through, whether it's through apps like Calm or Headspace, or providing specific mental health or therapy type of, whether it's a subscription or something else in their benefits package, or just more awareness and communication about things to do for your well-being. This is definitely at the forefront. And I want to point out a big stat here. Up to 33% of American workers have been reporting feelings of depression during the earlier months last year. Now, I don't have recent stats, but I can't imagine that stat has just gone down, because we're now going to be shifting into something else that may be feeling a little traumatic for people. So going from a world that changed, we all went and worked remotely and stayed inside as much as we could. Obviously not our essential workers. They kept things moving for everyone else, which is super important. But people are now going to be shifting into being back around people. Some people are going to go back into the workplace and things like that. And that can be another topic of something that can, I don't want to say traumatize, but it's an adjustment. And so whenever there's change, there is a little friction that happens with us. So more employers are needing to focus on that. The other thing is making sure that employees feel comfortable with whatever decision they made. We talked about last week, for some of you that joined, how companies like, I think it was Apple is who we talked about, they were saying, hey, you're going to have to come into the office and you can work these specific days. Well, not every employee is going to be happy with that, right? That may not work for everyone. So work-life balance is also something that's going to be important. I do like that the message was not, you're going to come back to the office and work every day. But many companies are finding that employees are saying, hey, I don't want to go back into the office. And Black Americans, about 97% of us said, no way, Jose, we're not coming back. Which I can imagine some reasons why I know I don't see myself wanting to go back into a workplace, especially not 100% of the time. I could see like a hybrid model, is because for me, look, there's a lot that you deal with as when you're seen as the other. When you walk into a room and you're the only woman, you're the only Black person, you're the only Asian person, you're the only Hispanic person, you're the other, whatever. You're only whatever. Um, and there are things that come up in the workplace that you see. You see microaggressions that happen. You see people talking to you in a different fashion than someone else of their own group. Deal with you just deal with a lot. Women sometimes deal with just not having a voice, like you're saying things and no one's hearing until someone else says it. Same with people of color, like it. All of these things really build up for someone when you're in the workplace, and it's like, well, I might as well just keep working remotely because yes, there's still going to be some challenges with remote work. Remote work is not perfect. However, there's some positives for employees that do have to be addressed. And of course, you have the flexibility. You can do things from your home. You can do laundry while you're doing other stuff. You can balance if you have kids. You can balance if you have pets. You can balance these different things. And it just makes things a little lighter. I know that's been the case for me at least. You're welcome, Buddha. And Yolanda, Sharky says, yes, most definitely feel better, Buddha. Health is so important. I was sick as a dog yesterday. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Sharky. So much so that I had to cancel. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You feel better today, though. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're feeling better. My goodness. Ooh. What's going on, my people? What is going on? And this is why I say focus on your health, because here's the thing. When you're go all the time, your body will force you to slow down. So even if you're like, no, your body will force you to slow down and take care of yourself. Having something as simple as an employee survey concerning certain matters. Yes. And you know what? I would go on to say, the employee survey, crucial, so that you can actually hear your employees and what they actually think, how they're feeling, what they're wanting, because things change year to year. But also, I feel like there has to be action after the employers get those results. And I do see that's where a lot of companies are challenged, because yes, they have these surveys. And then, as an employee, you're like, okay, I did my survey. I said my piece. What's going to happen? What's going on? And so either the communication doesn't happen to where employees know what's going on, where the company is addressing what they see in those survey results, or they're not really sharing fully the survey results, or nothing happens. Like, okay, so I said what I said, and it's been 2 years, and you're looking around like, so change? But that's a great point, Edward. Yes, companies have to have surveys. And I think most companies, well, you guys that follow my Instagram probably know this, or at least my jobs from Jess Instagram, know that I needed to recertify my Society for Human Resource Managers certification, SHRM for short. I think that's what it stands for, Society for Human Resource Management, Certified Professional. So I had to recertify, and to do that, you have to do training, and you have to be involved with certain webinars and just things to keep your learning. And you need to get 60 hours of that, or 60 professional development credits, rather, which is pretty much equates to an hour each, so 60 hours. And I was watching a webinar where they were talking about the employee engagement, and there was a question asked from like the audience, like those watching at different companies, how many of you actually have an employee engagement survey? And I was actually surprised that there was a percentage of those that did not. And so I'm just like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. But over 50% of them did. So that's great to see that over 50%, over half companies do. And so I didn't get the stats on who those people were, but I would imagine mid-sized to smaller companies may not have those yet, because oftentimes you'll see their human resources departments are smaller, and they're just trying to keep things running. They're trying to keep people paid, keep people with benefits, and keep the employee issues down, right? That's what they're doing. And then a little bit of hiring mixed in, or sometimes they will use 100% staffing from specific companies that focus on staffing. So where do they have time to figure out, okay, the future of the company, what are employees feeling? What's the workplace feeling like? It's just haven't evolved yet, which is nothing on the company. It's just, that's a part of the growth process. You build out your department so you can do more. Okay, went into a little bit of caveat there. But then I also wanted to share, I mentioned this about like the American culture versus European culture. So for example, a lot of countries in Europe, not to say they're perfect. I've recently saw some stats on Europeans where their output isn't as good as us Americans, of course, because they're focused on work-life balance. But the Netherlands, they say only 0.4% of people work long hours. Let me say that one again. In the Netherlands, all right, European friends, only 0.4% of people say they work long hours. Oh my gosh, like, can you imagine? But then they say in Turkey, 33% of people spend more than 50 hours in the office. And let me just look up what it is for Americans. But I can imagine it's definitely not 0.4%. Like we'd be dreaming. We would definitely be dreaming. Let me look up this stat. I'll just say over 40 hours a week, because there's no way. Oh my goodness. Okay. For the United States, US of A, 85.8%. Oh my goodness. So they broke it down, it looks like. So this is, let me see if I can find another stat, because I don't really want it broken down like that. I want to see what the average hours are. Let's see. Oh, they broke it down by gender. So it's looking like, from the stats, I'll have to dig into this more, because you guys know I don't like just finding stats before looking into who's putting the stats out. But it says over 60% of Americans work over 40 hours each week. So that's interesting. I knew it wasn't 0.4% like the Netherlands, but I don't think we would get there. I think there's a balance that we should have. I feel like we still are a superpower when it comes to our economy. Like we provide a lot of output. So you can't have both. I don't know if you can have both fully, but we can get better. Hello, the Polo Show. Thank you for coming in and saying hello. Oh, you recommended me to people. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, Shar. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for saying hi to everybody as well. Nice to see you guys in here. Okay, so I think I'm going to get to the last one. And yes, Edward, thank you. Please do thumbs up and share the live. I appreciate it. Share it only. You don't have to share it. But if you think that there are people in your community that would like this type of information, or would like to know about my channel, definitely share. So Sharky is saying, right, Jess, it's like the old joke about the corporate suggestion box. So I have actually heard about that. They do it to make it look like management is listening, but they don't follow through and implement those suggestions. Right. So we don't want companies to be in that place where it feels like you're just, providing feedback all the time, and nothing ever gets done. You're just like, okay, well, I put my suggestions in and I told you what I think, but nothing has changed. So I'm out. And that's when you see, higher turnover sometimes when you do have employees even sharing. A piece of the puzzle is to allow employees to share and to, provide their feedback. The other piece of that is to listen and take action. So definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Sharky. And I see your emojis in there too. Right. Those are definitely the emojis that you feel. All right. So I'm gonna move on here. Oh, I just saw you, T. Hello, T History. Welcome. Nice to see you. I see you're saying hello to everyone. Okay. So the last one that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to tie together before I get into job seeker questions. So a couple of things. So remote work and remote onboarding. Onboarding is starting before you even start with a company in most times because one, it was already a trend of that happening because it does make things easier. It makes the process of getting an employee incorporated into the company, learning the things they need to. It just makes it a bit faster when you can do things before they're already, started. You can get the I-9 verification. You can get the tax forms. You can get them the employee handbook. You can get them the employee information as far as, what's the about for the company. What's the company about? How do they make money? What's their mission, their vision, their yada, yada, yada. Who are the managers that you need to know? Who are their team? Like, what does their team look like? All that information you can definitely provide before someone starts with a company and, kind of kickstart things a little sooner, get the paperwork out of the way, get some of the mini training started. And then once they have their first day, they can start meeting people, even if it's, virtually, and start getting ingrained into the company a little faster. So you'll see more and more of the remote onboarding. If you're at a company that doesn't do this, I would foresee them doing that at least within this year, next year, more companies will do that because it just saves time. And it's a better experience for the candidate oftentimes. So the next part I want to talk about is also, we kind of talked about this a little bit. We talked about AI, but we didn't talk about augmented reality. How will companies use augmented reality as they're having remote onboarding and remote training? Because normally, and I worked as a trainer, you guys know this, you watched me for a little bit, the best training comes from not virtual oftentimes. Now there is some, plus factors with e-learning, but not all training can be that way. When you think about soft skills training, training someone to be a manager, training someone on safety components and, very skilled niche things, it's helpful to have some type of face-to-face, some type of engagement more so than you just answering questions or being quizzed, which is oftentimes the e-learning model, giving you a quiz or something or making you to do some action, you're dragging and dropping, you're doing something, right? But when it comes to soft skills training, what I would do when we're teaching someone about communication skills, well, you have to actually act it out. You have to think about how you can actually use it in real life and practice it and start to incorporate it into your day to day. And so companies will start using augmented reality. It may be a little early for right now, but watch because there are experts that are talking about and showing how virtual and augmented reality can really impact not only training, like facilitating training and onboarding, but also things like recruiting in the future as well. So we'll see more of that too. And then the last one I just want to talk about is just remote work. More and more people want remote work. And there's one job site that is dedicated to remote work. It's called Flex Jobs. I go there often. Sometimes they're a little bit delayed with taking down postings that are old. However, they're a good place to find companies that are looking for remote workers a lot. And they, in particular, they increased their traffic, or the jobs, at least on their site, 12% last summer. And like I said earlier, 97% of at least Black Americans are saying they only want remote work. And then also, there have been other surveys I've seen where over 60% of people only want remote, like they want to continue working from home post. I don't really want to say the word. I want to, what can I call this? Post our cough cough situation. All right, so I'm going to move on here. That is to wrap up the recruiting trends that I'm seeing. Advice to job seekers right now. I kind of gave a little bit of advice, but I want to highlight a few things that I've been seeing often job seekers asking about. The number one thing is about preparing for job interviews. So I'm a recruiter. I also have been in a place where I was laid off, got a job within a month, quickly, right? Part of that is because I'm well networked. Another part of that is because I understand the process. So when you're preparing for a job, I always, if you're preparing for a job interview, you have to do your research. And I feel like what a lot of people say with doing your research, they just say, oh, look up the company information, make sure you understand the job. No, it should go a little deeper than that. And I say, do those things, sure. But also, you need to find out, do you know anyone at this company? Number one, do you know anybody at the company that you're potentially interviewing with? You can find that out by using LinkedIn. You can use Facebook. You can just talk to people in your, friend group or in your networks to see. And then if you do have someone that you can connect with, reach out to them first, because that's your insight into the company. How do they typically hire people? What is the culture really like? And are there any tips that they can provide for you? Because they had to get into the company some kind of way. What did they do? Who do they know? Can they put in a good word for you? So that's one thing. The other thing is, if you don't have that, let's say you don't know anybody, your friends don't know anybody, your mama's friends don't know anybody, your daddy's friends don't know anybody, no one has worked at this company. Okay, that's fine. And I would say, even if it's like they're not currently working there, if you know someone that used to work at a company, it can be helpful. Okay. Well, there's other research that you should be doing. You can go onto LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor to find out what other people are saying about the interview process. Let me know if you would like a video on that, but I feel like it's pretty straightforward, but I guess for people that maybe aren't used to Glassdoor and Indeed, it could be overwhelming, or maybe for someone that isn't on the computer a lot. But you can go to these sites and find out from people that have interviewed with a company, that worked with a company before, how their experience was, even the type of questions that you're going to get, right? Specific questions, because I myself as a recruiter, I'm not going to tell you this is the question you're going to get for your interview. However, I can tell you like, hey, be ready to talk about X, Y, and Z. These are the type of interview questions you're going to get. I've also even prepared a job candidate and asked them a couple of questions that I knew were going to be similar, but I can't just go out and say like, hey, these are questions, unless I'm literally doing that for every candidate. And I don't think that would be fair. Because the point of asking certain questions is to get real answers from people. I don't want you to have practice a fake answer. I don't want you to practice a lie and then come to the interview. And then also with that, it kind of shows as robotic when someone would know every single, question and just say some verbatim answer. So anyway, that's my process. That will be my process of preparing. And then the last thing I would say do is to just make sure that you are prepared to actually have an interview, whether that is having a mock interview with someone. I provide those services. Or you can always practice in front of a mirror, record yourself, play back how you answer questions, look at how you respond. Because a lot of times, with some of the interviews, it's sometimes people don't even look happy. Sometimes their energy is way off. They're just not even their true selves. Get comfortable with interviewing. Otherwise, oftentimes you feel like it's an interrogation. So that would be my feedback there. The other question I wanted to highlight is, let me find it. Okay, so this interview question keeps coming up. And I did do a video on this. I did a video. But how do you answer the question, what's your biggest weakness? Right? So here's normally my tip for answering this question. Let me talk about what you don't say. So what you don't say is my biggest weakness is that I am a perfectionist and, I just focus so much on one thing at a time and I have to get it 100% perfect. And it can be a challenge because, I really push myself so hard. And so that means I work more hours just to make sure everything's perfect. No one wants to hear that because everyone said that before. And we know it's kind of a BS answer. Also, what you shouldn't say, let's say I am applying for a recruiter job. So I'm applying for a recruiter job and I need to be able to communicate well and I need to be organized. And I'm asked, what's your biggest weakness? And I say, well, I'm not so great at communication and it's something that I'm really working on. But yeah, that would be my biggest weakness right now. And the reason that would be a terrible answer for me is because I just told you communication is going to be very important as a recruiter. And I'm telling the interviewer, yeah, that's my biggest weakness, right? It's not a weakness, it's the biggest weakness. You wouldn't want to go in with that. So how would you actually answer the question? So my tip would be answer it in this way. So as a recruiter, I don't need to be super savvy with Microsoft Excel. I just don't have to. It's not like a part of the job requirement. It could be a nice plus depending on the job, but the main thing will be recruiting experience, communication skills, organization skills. This flower is I thought it was kind of like wanted to slide out my hair. So I would answer the question in this fashion. This is just one example. So a big weakness for me has been using Microsoft Excel, specifically using pivot tables. I have pretty basic to intermediate Excel skills. I haven't really needed to use it in my work. However, I've taken classes within the past 6 months to address it because I found that it can make my life a bit easier to set up different Excel sheets and spreadsheets for myself to even be more organized. So now I would say I'm more intermediate, but it's something that I'm continuing to work on. And I realized that, I wasn't so strong because I was actually trying to set up a spreadsheet to make something easier for myself. And I just realized I need to do something to advance my skills in that space. So I've actually taken 2 courses. They've been super helpful. It's something I always try to work on is to get better at things. And yeah, I'm now an intermediate level in Excel and I'm still working on it to make sure that I'm continuing that. And then I would just, round it out and that would be it. But I would not highlight, like the biggest thing I say don't do, never highlight a skill that you need in a job. And I think what happens is people are so thrown off by that question. They don't expect that question. Just expect the question. Just expect it. Just in case, like if it doesn't come up, great, but just expect it so you're ready. But what happens is people get so thrown off, they're like, and then they just blurt whatever out. So even if you're in a place where it comes to you and it's unexpected, just take a moment and say, oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment. Take a couple moments, think, and then just answer. There's no perfect answer to that question. It literally is just asked because the person wants to understand, one, do you have that self-awareness? Do you know yourself well enough to be able to identify what your weaknesses are? And what do you actually do when you recognize a weakness? Do you just say that's a weakness and that's just that? Like I could have said like, yeah, I'm just really bad at Excel, and that could have been my answer. But I took it to another level and said, yes, I identified that Excel is not my biggest strong point. It's a big weakness for me. What I did, or what I've done and what I'm continuing to do, is to take classes specific to Excel. And no, it's not very important to my work right now. However, I found that it could be an advantage to me to make me even more organized. So that is the type of answer you want to give. You want to demonstrate how you are not the type of person that's just like, well, it's a weakness and that's just that. You want to show that you can recognize a weakness and you can actually take action proactively, because I didn't say, oh, someone told me I need to do it. No, I said, I looked for courses, I found courses, I took the courses, and I addressed my weakness, and I'm continuing to address the weakness. So it shows a lot of different things just in that one example, which is why a lot of recruiters will use it, because no, it's not the best question. We know, but you can get a lot out of that just by understanding a person's thought process of how they address their weaknesses and things they're not so great at, right? So all of those behaviors are things you want to demonstrate, and turn that question and questions like that into a way that you can brag on yourself. Humble brag, like, no, I didn't go out here and say, yeah, and so now I'm the best at Excel and I can do that. No, I didn't do that. I just said, here's how I address the weakness. I'm growing from that, and now I can, manage through Excel a lot better. That's what you want to do. You want to take a question, figure out how you can answer that question, and drive through those positive aspects about yourself, the things that you do that make you so great. Okay. Hopefully I answered that question. I may do a little mini snippet of that. I did something similar to that question that I think is helpful. It's how do you, or tell me about a time when you failed. So I do have a short, like 4 to 5 minute video where I explain that. Very similar process. But I see this question, it keeps coming up over and over and over again. So I was like, you know what? That's going to be one I address in this live chat. And then if anyone has questions, specific job seeker questions, let me know. Let me go through some comments here. And yes, Edward, bottom line, if you want the job, you're going to have to put in some effort with everything, like just with everything. You have to put in some effort. Now, I will say, if you're a person that you're constantly networking, you're keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date, you're keeping your resume up to date, you're, maybe passively even looking for jobs every once in a while, so your interview skills are up to par, you're probably not going to have to do as much because you're already in that kind of mindset of a job seeker. But for people, you have an interview and it's been 1 or 2 years, you got to put a little more extra, legwork into it, right? And especially for my folks that are 5, 10, 15, 20 years out of the game when it comes to, looking for a job, well, you may need to talk to someone. You may need to have to, have someone really walk you through the process of what you need to do, because so much has changed since you were in the job market. But yes, you are 100% right. Thank you, guys. And just going to shout out, I will have a video posted in a couple of hours. It's at 4 p.m. Central. It's just going to be showing how I spent my birthday weekend. So please join if you're able to. It's a completely different video than I normally do. It is a vlog. I don't normally vlog. You guys know this, but I thought it would be a great time to do it. Some folks said they would watch vlogs from me. So it's not the best, I feel like. So leave me feedback. Let me know if you have tips. But it was fun to make. It's kind of a pain to make, but it was fun. So T is saying, have you ever interviewed people for job opportunities? Yes, that's what I do for work. I've been a recruiter for since I was in college. I've started interviewing in 2010 when I became a manager at my college's. It's like a call center. So we would actually, as a group, call alumni and ask them for money donations to support the school. And I was a manager there. And so I actually would do the hiring in conjunction with my team and also training the new employees that were hired. And then from there, I moved into recruitment where I did that full time while I was in school and after I graduated school. I moved into different recruiter and HR roles where I was sole hiring. I've also hired people for myself. While I was at a PR firm, I did a lot of hiring just for my own team. And so I know from that perspective too, as a hiring manager, what I look for. I know what other hiring managers are looking for now and from past experience because I work with them now to find them the right people. So I am normally the first person interviewing someone for a job. And then back then I'd be the initial person and then I would make the decision to hire someone or not. And, it's a mix of different things that go into that. You obviously want someone with the right skill set, but you also want someone that's going to be a culture fit and not give you headaches. So as a hiring manager, I did not want to hire someone where I was just going to be hand-holding them the entire time, or I felt like they were going to have a bad attitude, or they weren't going to show up to work. So a lot of things that you have to consider. And luckily, I hired some amazing people. Some of them I still stay in touch with, but I've even had my own experience where I made a hire for someone, not so much because of my own gut instinct, but someone else influenced me. So shame on me, but someone else influenced me to hire someone and they were just not. And I think a part of it was the motivation just wasn't there. And this is why some hiring managers will pass up on someone even if they're skilled, but they don't seem like they're really interested in the job and really showing that they're energetic and happy about the job opportunity. It's because, and in my experience, I've seen even if someone can do the job, if they're not intrinsically motivated to do well in that job, they're eager to learn new things, they want to really move into whatever space they're going to be working in, it will be a challenge for you as the manager to motivate them because even if they can do a job, they're going to do the basic minimum, barely like just kind of like if you were to think of a person just like, I did it. Oh, I had these mistakes. Oh, well, I mean, I did the job. I did it. In comparison to someone that's like, oh my gosh, I did a great job on this. How did I do? I want some feedback. How can I make it better? Those are the type of people we want. But when you're coming into a job interview and you don't even seem, and this is why I say record yourself, because you don't want to just seem like, yeah, I want the job because, I'm looking for a job. I've heard people say that to me. And it's like, well, this person over here wants the job because they're interested in doing this type of work. You're just saying you want the job because you need a job. You got to tell me more. That's just not going to fly. Like no manager wants the person that's just like, I just need a job. I'll do it. No one wants that. Like, would you want that? Would you, if you had a business, would you say, let's say you're going to have someone do your hair or cut your hair. Would you want the person that's like, yeah, I do hair, like it's fine? Or would you want the person like, I do hair, I love hair, I am all about hair, like this is my thing, yada, yada, yada. I want the person that loves their job. I don't want the person that doesn't love what they're doing because they're not going to do a good job. Good question. Tea history. Let me make sure I got the right person. Tea history, great question. All right, so final thing that I want to talk about before I get off of here. Sharky, looking forward to that birthday vlog, Jess. I'm sure it will be great entertaining. Thank you. Well, I hope it's entertaining. I don't know if I'm the most entertaining person, but You'll tell me. Tell me in the comments whether you were entertained. I will say I had a great time. I felt like I needed to do the vlog too because last year birthday was just not great, and this year it was pretty good. So I figured I should share. And yes, Edward, please do hit the thumbs up button. So I want to just close out by talking about just work remote trends. And I just want to highlight this one thing when it comes to remote work. I just want people to remember there are going to be pros and cons to remote work. And you have to make sure that you're set up in a place where you can actually do your job well in a remote workspace. Because what companies are looking at now is they're trying to figure out ways to bring people back in the office. So if they're seeing productivity slipping, or if they're not seeing your face on camera, or all these different things that may cause engagement to suffer, those will be the reasons companies will start to use to say, hey, let's bring you back in the office. However, I do still see more companies saying, hybrid work environment is what we're going to do. But along with that comes cybersecurity threats. So a lot of companies are still trying to figure this out. They're trying to figure out how to keep their employees safe, how to keep their data safe while employees are working in this hybrid space. Because the challenge is you now have people not saying they're 100% remote or they're 100% in the office, or mostly, right? They're now saying they can ebb and flow here and there. They're traveling different places. They're going to coffee shops and working. So I do see that more companies are going to be honing in on the security. So is your workplace from home secure? Where are you going? Where are you working at? Things like that. I do feel like more of those questions will come up. Didn't need it so much before because we were all at home. It wasn't like people were, some people were, but majority of folks were not like, I'm traveling here and I'm traveling there and I'm working, or I'm going to this coffee shop and I'm working. They were at home mostly. So that's going to be one thing that, or a couple of things that companies will be considering. All right, so I will close out with this comment from Sharky. It's sadly human nature, though, that many employees have a Fred Flintstone mentality. Punch in, punch out. Jack Welch, former CEO of GE, had his 20-80 rule. 20% of a team does 80% of the team's work. Interesting. I can see that because yes, you have your productive folks that normally. Here's the thing, the people that are more productive and they're good at their job, they're going to get more projects. People want them to do more. They're going to be the first person someone comes to. Those that don't do so well in their job, they kind of, they coast a bit, right? And then if companies are able or letting that slide, it actually makes the workplace really suffer because you have the productive folks leave. They're like, well, why am I doing this work? I care about the work and this person doesn't, they're still here. And, employees see that, right? But that is a consideration to take on with remote work as well, because what if, what happens then? What happens to the folks that are just kind of coasting? Do they get to coast more? Because, now you're at home, so you could be sitting back watching TV for all I know. Which is what a lot of, leaders are thinking. Like at the beginning of the remote work trend, I wouldn't say last year, but years ago, a lot of leaders were saying, no, we don't want remote work because they couldn't see what was happening, couldn't see what people were doing. And so you kind of have that fear from leadership of what are people doing? Are they just kind of coasting, or are they actually thriving in their work and actually, putting out good work and being really efficient? So the punch in, punch out mentality. And I do see that, I've said this a few times where you bring up people learning something new and training and getting a new skill. And, people are like, nah, we're good. Just pay us more money. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. That's not always how it works. Like, yes, you get more experience, you generally get paid more, but you're also getting more experience. You're not doing the same thing over and over again. Typically, you're learning something new, learning new ways to do things. You're getting better in your craft. And sometimes, yes, a lot of people do have that mentality of, I just want to do this one job and that's it. So that's not where we want to be. That's not where I want my folks to be, because that's not really what advances people. Even if you have your own company, you should have a growth mindset. So with that, I am going to close things out. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate all the likes, all of the support. And with that, please do have a nice day. Focus on your self-care in all forms. And I will have some other conversations happening this week, some live chats, because I haven't been doing live chats as much. I just took a little break. But yeah, I will see you all next time, and enjoy your Sunday. Bye.